Here's Todd Friel to explain how the devil is deceiving you, but also it's your fault if you fall for it.
Surprise pop quiz time. Whose pants are literally on fire? You got it. The devil.
I guess what Todd means is that the devil is in hell where there's a lot of fire. But does the devil literally wear pants? What are they made out of? Isn't the devil a non-corporeal being? Are they non-corporeal pants? I bet they're made out of mixed non-corporeal fibers.
Quiz question number 2. Who was the first liar? Bingo, the devil. Question 3. Who is the father of lies? We get it! It's the devil! Congratulations. Question number 4. How does the devil cause people to sin?
If the devil causes people to sin, if he deceives people into sinning, then how is sin the fault of those people? If the reason Adam and Eve ate from the tree is because they were defrauded into doing so by the devil, then how is it their fault? Typically, we don't hold people responsible for things they have been deceived into doing. But apparently when the devil tricks people into sinning, it is still somehow entirely the sinner's fault.
Are we seeing a pattern here? Question number 5. Get ready for this. How is the devil like Panera?
They're both popular with Karens.
That's right. This is a lame sermon illustration. The devil is like Panera because when you visit Panera, the goodies on the shelf, they look so good. You order your salad, you eat it, you finish it, and then you say, I'm still hungry. Why does sin never satisfy? Because sin is a liar with a voracious appetite.
Lots of folks leave Todd's religion because they found its oppressiveness unsatisfying. Does that mean that the devil is behind it?
With that in mind, please pass your papers to the front of the class and let's tackle 7 lies about God. Hey, that sounds like a book from Erwin Lutzer. Because, well, basically, it is. Here we go. God doesn't exist.
There is no God.
Sorry. The person who utters this absolute inanity has an agenda because the single most intuitive conclusion that we can draw is if you have a creation, you have a creator.
On what basis do you believe that we have a creation? Certainly Todd would not assert that God is a creation, so not everything which he believes to exist is a creation. Since that's the case, how does he know that the universe is a creation? Why can't it just be something that exists on its own rather than something which is created?
If you have morals, you have a moral lawgiver.
Yeah, human beings are the moral lawgivers. We can give moral laws without the help of a god. Now, a theist might object that human-made laws are not objective. Well, God-made laws are not objective either, because there is no objective, non-circular reason why we ought to follow the laws that are dictated to us by a god.
Why do they deny what is obvious?
Because it's not obvious.
Because their agenda is to sin.
Why would I need to deny the obvious to sin? Even if I were to agree that the existence of God is obvious, if I wanted to sin, I would just sin. I wouldn't need to deny God's existence in order to do that. And it's not clear to me how denying God's existence would in any way help me to do that.
Suppress the knowledge God exists and you are off to the sin races.
But I can be off to the sin races even if I don't suppress the knowledge of God's existence.
Now, as a side note, if you've wondered how is it that people can deny pink and blue, boy and girl, 2 genders?
You know that pink and blue have only been gender signifiers for about 100 years, right? This is an entirely invented thing. It's culturally contingent, and in fact, how we count the genders is culturally contingent as well. What you think is obviously true is actually made up.
It's easy. Once you've denied the existence of God, which is even more obvious than genders, well, then you can deny anything.
I think the opposite is true. It's pretty uncommon for people who are not religious to deny that nobody rises from the dead, for example. It's a lot harder for atheists to deny that reality.
Lie number 6.
All paths, all journeys lead to the same God.
Okay, my pluralistic friend, which happens to be basically the majority of Americans these days. Here's a question, if you're a pluralist. If Jesus Christ really is God in the flesh, and if Jesus lived a perfect life of morality, died a brutal death that sinners like me, like you, could be reconciled to God, if Jesus went to that much effort and even stated that he is the exclusive way, the exclusive truth, the exclusive one.
Well, the Universalists argue that when Jesus died to absolve us from sin, he actually absolved us all from sin, not just the Christians.
Get there any way you want to. I don't care what you believe in. He would not go through such a costly endeavor if he were not the only way. Why would he do all of that and then let us worship a piece of wood? When you think about what Jesus said, what he did, it's clear pluralism. It just doesn't even make sense.
Well, is salvation contingent upon works or not? Many Christians insist that performing good works is not how you get to heaven. If salvation is not contingent upon works, then it is not contingent upon performing the work of abstaining from worshiping pieces of wood.
Lie number 5. God does not get involved with human affairs.
The question answered at a certain point, not very long ago in our history, by the deists, people like Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, and many others, who said that the order of the universe seemed to suggest that it couldn't just have been random, that there may have been a designer, but the designer didn't take any part in human affairs.
So this is classic deistic thinking. God, he's so transcendent, so distant, so different. God is not involved at all with our life and our world. He just set the place spinning and went and took a nap or went to a party. If that's true, then life has no meaning.
How does that follow? If you believe that God gives our lives meaning, then why could he have not given us that meaning at the point of creation? Why would he have to continue to intervene in order for life to have meaning?
And the planet and eternity, they're up for grabs. The good thing is we know that God is invested and involved with human affairs because he's revealed himself to us in the person of Jesus Christ.
What does that have to do with whether he created us to fulfill some intended meaning at the outset?
Lie number 4.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction.
But the God of the New Testament, he's pretty sweet, loving, and forgiving. Okay, ask Ananias and Sapphira. Ask the unbelievers in the book of Revelation. Ask Jesus, who said, I'm going to tell a lot of people, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, because God is immutable. His character doesn't change between testaments. He's righteously angry and perfectly loving and forgiving in both the Old and New Testaments.
All at once? If he is unchanging, then he must be angry all the time.
Lie number 3, God, he doesn't know our decisions before we make them.
Open theists simply believe that when God created the world, he created it with possibilities, unresolved possibilities. And to the degree that the world consists of unresolved possibilities, then the fact that God knows is that it may go this way or that way. So it's really just the belief that possibilities are real. God created a world in which the future is to some degree open to possibilities.
That is a horrifying lie. According to the Bible, he absolutely does. He knows the end from the beginning. He knows the thoughts and intentions of every human heart. If God doesn't know our thoughts, then he's not omniscient.
How then do you reconcile that with the Christian insistence that we have free will? How do we have free will if we cannot choose to abstain from doing that which God predicts we will do?
But wait, it gets even worse, my open theistic friend. I'm looking at you, Greg Boyd. Every decision we make was not only known, it was preordained by God.
Preordained means predetermined. If everything we do is predetermined by God, does that not mean that God makes us sin? If God makes us sin, how are we culpable for sinning?
Lie number 2. Oh, the fall, it ruined God's plan. This is plan B. Sorry, there are no plan Bs in God's economy. Well-intentioned Christians throw this out because it kind of gets God off the hook for all of the effects of the fall. But Acts 2, Acts 4, make it plain. The fall was God's prearranged plan from the beginning so he could send his son so that his glory could be fully known.
So God planned to get Adam and Eve to sin so he could come to earth as Jesus and sacrifice himself to appease himself for the sins that he deliberately entrapped people into committing in the first place. And he did this all so he could show off how awesome he is? This doesn't really make his glory known to me. To me, it just makes God look very silly. Also, why does he have righteous anger about us committing sins if those sins were part of his plan? Why is he angry about us doing what he set us up to do?
One last problem. If we can thwart God's plan, then we're more powerful than God. And last time I checked, we're not. And that brings us to lie number 1. Although they are all whoppers, when obeying God, we're choosing his pleasures over our own. What? Here's the reality. When you know Jesus Christ, what pleases him will gradually come to please us. If our pleasures aren't in alignment with his, then our pleasures are, what's the word I'm looking for? Sin.
But if the sin is a result of the fall, and the fall is part of his plan, then our sins are, in fact, in line with how he wants the world to be. I guess it should be noted that Todd's belief in predestination, the idea that whether you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior is not up to you, but rather something that God decides, is not a view that's universally held by Christians. And it's easy to see why. It's contradicted by the idea that accepting Jesus is our responsibility. When this contradiction is pointed out to Todd, he insists that while it very much looks like a contradiction, it's not a contradiction to God, so the fact that no human can see how it makes any sense shouldn't concern us. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.